In August 2023, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese admitted himself that the problem with housing in this country was a lack of supply. After a national cabinet meeting, he announced a plan to ensure that the nation will build 1.2 million homes in 5 years. That's 20,000 homes every single month, or 60,000 every quarter. By the way, National Cabinet brings together the Prime Minister, state premiers and the territory chief ministers to coordinate national policy, especially on issues that cross jurisdictions like health and housing and energy, infrastructure and emergency management. It was created in March 2020 by Scott Morrison to replace the old Council of Australian Governments, or COAG, and it meets several times a year, sometimes with the relevant state or federal ministers joining as needed. It is not an official or constitutional body. Cynics say it's classic ScoMo stuff, a very good way for our leaders to shift blame onto each other when dealing with sensitive issues. It's not surprising Albo embraced the idea. Chalk up another one for the Uniparty blob. Anyway, maybe I am being a bit too cynical about the old National Cabinet, but here's what Albo said about the housing plan after the August 2023 National Cabinet meeting.
All governments recognise the best way to ensure that more Australians have a safe and affordable place to call home is to boost housing supply. That's why National Cabinet has agreed to an ambitious new national target to build 1.2 million new well-located homes over 5 years from the 1st of July 2024.
Okay, so it was very clear there. The problem is supply. And National Cabinet has agreed to aim for a new ambitious target to build 1.2 million new homes in 5 years from July 1, 2024. So we're a year and a bit in. A few things we should note. First of all, governments don't build homes. Businesses build homes. I know lefties think the government does everything, but it doesn't. Usually it just gets in the way, and the less it does, the better. Now, I've had a lot of experts on this show over the past few years saying that the housing problem is a supply problem, and the big cost of building new housing is due to high government taxes, which make up as much as 40 to 50% of the cost of a new build in a city like Sydney, depending on how you measure it. The other problem is the idiocy of city and shire councils. Local government is a huge hindrance to getting that supply problem solved. Crazy overregulation, political stubbornness, red tape, green tape, and sometimes even just straight out corruption are all making doing housing developments just too unattractive and risky for many. And if they do get done, very, very costly. And in the end, it's us that have to pay. Interestingly, back in August 2023, in the same news conference after the National Cabinet meeting, Albo seemed to recognise the problem with local councils.
National Cabinet has agreed to an ambitious new national target to build 1.2 million new well-located homes over 5 years from the 1st of July 2024. National Cabinet also agreed to a national planning reform blueprint that we will distribute with planning, zoning, land release and other measures to improve housing supply and affordability. The blueprint includes updating state, regional and local strategic plans to reflect housing supply targets, promoting medium and high density housing in well-located areas close to existing public transport connections, amenities and employment, and streamlining approval pathways.
A planning reform blueprint with planning, zoning, land release and other measures to improve housing supply and affordability. Well, whatever the great leaders of our federal and state governments decided, it isn't working yet. Joining me to discuss is our panel of experts this week, economist Jean Tunney from Adept Economics, former Bloomberg data analyst and News Corp journalist Dan Petrie, and Executive Director of the Australian Institute for Progress think tank and researcher, Graham Young. Graham, I'll start with you this time. How do you think that the planning reform blueprint is working out? Have we seen the massive rezoning and streamlining of approval processes that was promised by Albo there 2.5 years ago?
Got no idea how he thought he was going to do that because there's no mechanism that I'm aware of. Planning is done by councils basically under general direction by the state governments. We've got too many planners. I saw a figure the other day. I can't tell you the exact numbers, but there's a lot more planners involved in approving something today than there was even 20 years ago. And a lot of these planners come, I'm going to sound like a an old man here, but they come straight from university into planning departments. They've got no idea how the market works. And they think the solution to the housing crisis is to go up. But you can't. Building costs on a 2-bedroom unit anywhere in Brisbane, $650,000, and we haven't put in profit, land, payment for infrastructure, etc. You can't bring that product in for less than $1 million. So you've got to go out.
Well,
you actually
can't build
need
a house in. Sorry, finish.
No,
you can't build a house in Brisbane in less than $1 million.
That's a unit, a 2-bedroom unit, and put it on the market.
$1 million. That's a bit scary. If that's not a disincentive to investors, what is?
Well, that's what the Property Council has been saying, and it underlines the affordability problem that we're having. I think we do. I mean, I guess what we've done is, because we've got a lot of character protection of housing, we allow development in certain areas, and so we're constrained to particular types of development, like the big apartment blocks or the apartment towers, which Graham has mentioned can be expensive. I think there's a growing movement for more gentle density.
The infill model, which is basically what everyone wants, is incredibly expensive, and also reflected in the numbers. I mean,
The infill model is the density, increasing the
Absolutely.
density in the inner city areas.
and to Jean's point, I mean, that's this creation, this urban village style thing, and that's probably not a bad thing. The way the economy is going, more people, particularly those in the civil service, are also working in the suburbs. They're working from home a lot more, so you've got consumption patterns almost like a donut. The CBD's hollowed out a bit, and
You've come up with a little bit of a tricky little gadget. I
have.
like a lot.
I have.
So you've launched this thing that's tracking how well Albo and Co are going in terms of reaching this 1.2 million new homes being built by the community, not by the government, in 5 years since July 1 last year.
and I can tell you now, not well.
The National Housing Accord Tracker.
So it's
Total target 1.2 million, 1,200,000 homes. We've got 4 quarters reported so far. Base quarterly target 60,000. Actual dwellings to date should be 240,000.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's
So
about
4
100,
quarters.
170.
It's 172,416.
So basically, Tony Abbott had a better run rate than Albanese. He didn't even have a policy on it. So the sheer run rate is they need to be building 60,000. They're lucky to be getting to 45,000. Of that 45,000,
Well, I love the fact you've built this. This is a great little website. Let's just show that again quickly, John. The current shortfall is 67,584 already, and that's after only 4 quarters, after 1 year's worth. The revised quarterly target, so if you think of it as the run rate in a one-day cricket match.
oh, Gene said it before it came on air.
yeah.
We should call it the Michael Bevan calculator.
There you go.
I mean, but
So the revised run rate is 64,000 now they've got to do every quarter.
and I just need Tony Gregg going, they really need to pick up the pace right now, because
Okay, housingtracker.com.au, folks.
Yeah.
Look at that and play with it. There were a couple of other things in that totality data that was released this week that I do want to get your thoughts on, gentlemen. Let's have a look at this. The totality of Australian residential real estate value over time. So just having a look at that, the residential real estate underpins Australia's wealth. Residential real estate's worth $12 trillion. So to give you a sense of how much that is, how much value that is sitting in real estate and residential real estate, Australian superannuation is $4.3 trillion total superannuation. Australian listed stocks total $3.6 trillion, and commercial real estate $1.3 trillion. $12 trillion. That's the sort of number that makes economists shiver, isn't it, Gene Tunney?
At the moment, if you look at the financial stability data that the Reserve Bank put out, then you'd say, well, is there really a problem? People don't seem to have problems servicing their mortgages. The rate of arrears is very low, under 1%. So we're not seeing signs of an imminent crash yet. I think it is a risk if we do have a major downturn. If we have a significant, severe recession, say a 91 style recession, and then people can't repay their mortgages, people become unemployed, then you could see a very severe property market correction. That could have financial stability implications for our banks. So it's certainly a risk. But look, if we can have a sensible economic management, if we can have sensible monetary policy from the Reserve Bank, which does prevent excessive credit growth, then potentially we can get this back on track if we can improve supply. So I'm not I'm not going to panic about it just
good.
yet.
All right. But,
But
2.5
it is a
trillion
risk.
in mortgage debt there. 2.5
Yeah.
trillion in mortgage debt in that 12 trillion.
Yeah.
So that's not too bad a ratio, I guess.
Well, I guess Australians do. We have one of the highest household debts in the world. So I'd say if you looked at the data and you compared us with other OECD economies, you'd say, yes, we're highly leveraged in terms of mortgage debt. So that is a large number for the size of our economy.
Okay, let's have a look at the chart for the total value of Australian residential real estate over time, going back to 2009 in this chart. And you can see that the total value of Australian residential real estate was at about 4 trillion back then, and it's increased now to 12 trillion, increasing quite significantly since about 2019, so pre-COVID, when it was at 7 trillion. So, yeah, it's a bit pointy.
I think the real issue is probably a misallocation of resources question. So our housing is a larger proportion of our wealth than most other countries. Like in the US, I think it's about 6 times earnings on average will buy you a house. And here it's something like 10 times.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on the exact figures, but that's roundabout in the ballpark.
Yeah.
That's money that's going into putting a roof over your house, over your head, that isn't going into earning you a living. So, you quote the stock market, what was it, 4 trillion?
Yeah.
Versus 12 trillion. Well, the 4 trillion is what pays the bills. The 12 trillion employs carpenters and developers and people like that. But it's a minor contributor in terms of overall wealth.
Yeah, it's not real productivity sitting in that.
Part of that increase was a rational reaction to interest rates going down.
Yep.
Because if you've got interest rates at 2 or 3%, you can afford a much larger loan.
Yep.
Basic economics tells you that if people can pay up, they will pay up. If there's a demand situation there, so that's what happened. And now what's happened is interest rates have gone back to more normal, and suddenly it's really crunching people in terms of the payments.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We'll come back in a moment with a bit more of our expert panel. As we continue to discuss things, we're going to look at the question of just how good the Australian economy is overall, and we'll hear from the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia, who's got some interesting thoughts. Did you know that with a virtual private network, or VPN, on your computer, tablet or phone, you can log into your favourite streaming services like Netflix from home with an internet address from anywhere in the world and watch all the shows that they offer in other countries, including stuff in different languages? And using a VPN to route all your internet traffic through a third-party server means that big corporations and big government can't spy on you. If you sign up now with private internet access, we think they're the best VPN servers out there, as a viewer of The Other Side, you can get 83% off the price of your subscription and get online for less than $3 a month. Check it out right now. Go to piavpn.com/otherside. That's piavpn.com/otherside. It's a great service, a rock bottom price, and supporting our sponsor, you are helping to keep The Other Side going and growing. That was a segment clip from our weekly Friday night news show, The Other Side, which you can watch in full by simply going to YouTube and searching up The Other Side Australia. Then you'll find our full shows playlist. You can also find all of our full shows and our segments on our own website, othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Help us build a whole new Aussie media by joining us over there and signing up for the exclusive side.